Hi guys, welcome back to Manga Mono. The story of this anime begins with Masanobu preparing to leave for the house. He looks sad and has some bruises on his face, which worries his mother, Tomoko. When she asks about his dull mood, he doesn't answer and simply walks away. Deep down, Tomoko knows something is wrong with him, but is left wondering why he won't open up to her. The fact that he frequently comes home with bruises tells her he's being bullied, and it deeply concerns her. She cannot help but wish that his father were around to help sort such things out. As the sun sets, Tomoko finishes her house chores and takes the dried clothes inside. While doing this, Tagawa arrives and politely greets her. When she asks who he is, he explains that he is Masanobu's friend and would like to talk to him about something. After hearing this, she lets him into the house so he can wait for Masanobu until her returns home. Out of sheer curiosity, she asks Tagawa what he wants to discuss with Masanobu. Tagawa replies that Masanobu frequently gets bullied and says that he also faces the same issue. However, he then says that he feels uncomfortable opening up the problem at his own home. Tomoko ends up realizing why Masanobu has difficulty opening up to her and encourages Tagawa to share more about the problems he's facing. It seems she wants to know more about their issues so she can better understand what her son is going through and how she can help him. Tagawa agrees, showing that he feels more at ease talking to her. He begins by mentioning that he still has his V card, which is why other boys look down and pick on him. He adds that they are quite persistent and he feels like a walking target whenever he is around them. Tomoko expresses sympathy for his situation. However, instead of offering him some dating advice, she surprisingly just exposes her twin personalities to him out of nowhere. She says she can't help him get rid of his V card, but she can at least let him know how it feels to get a good grasp of some bouncy twin personalities. Despite his surprise at her offer, Tagawa remains calm as she reveals her twin personalities to boost his self-esteem. It feels like a dream come true for him, since he has never had such an opportunity before. He takes advantage of the moment and gets to know her twin personalities better. To his amazement, everything appears to be in perfect form despite their maturity. Unable to hold back, he goes on to show off his tongue twister skills on her twin personalities, maybe hoping that they'll reward him with a daily dose of calcium. However, no calcium-rich formula arrives, so he decides to get fiercer with his tongue twister skills in hopes of changing his luck. Unfortunately, he still doesn't achieve any results. Meanwhile, Tomoko notices his surprisingly confident actions, despite his claims of still having his V card. As she fills the room with her heavenly cultural sounds, she notices that Tagawa's sword hero has already entered rage mode. Seeing this makes the culture within her rise to alarming levels, and she ends up offering to calm it down properly for her. She lets Tagawa's sword hero out so it can breathe and proceeds to inspect and test its capabilities. She goes on to use the forbidden power of friction to make it accidentally spill a generous amount of fresh yogurt drink. Once that happens, she inspects the quality of his yogurt. Since she hasn't had a steady supply of yogurt lately, Tomoko can't help but ask Tagawa if he wants to return and see her again. The following day, Tagawa confronts Masanobu, and it turns out that he is the one who bullied him all along.
今日から家帰んの1時間遅らせろ。いいな。
While Masanobu bows his head to him in fear, Tagawa orders him to always go home late starting that day. When asked why, Tagawa simply brushes Masanobu aside and promises that if he just obeys his command, he'll stop picking on him. Since he doesn't really have a choice in the matter, Masanobu reluctantly complies. At the very least, he thinks that by doing as he's told, Tagawa would be kind enough to stop sending him home with bruises. At that point, it becomes clear why Masanobu is getting bullied. He's a weak beta and doesn't have what it takes to stand up against an alpha like Tagawa, of course. What he doesn't know is that Tagawa is simply taking advantage of the opportunity to have Tomoko all to himself for his self-esteem improvement sessions. The following day, Tagawa meets with Tomoko again to get his daily dose of his self-esteem medication. Tomoko flaunts her pro-level karaoke skills and makes him accidentally spill a fresh serving of his fresh yogurt drink. Things further escalated between Tagawa and Tomoko as the days went by. With each new day, they end up going for more advanced self-esteem medications. At one time, they have a cultural session in the bathroom where Tomoko lets Tagawa use the power of friction to help warm up the fillings of her apple pie. The next day, Tagawa meets with Tomoko on time to receive his medication. Like always, they start off with Tomoko using her twin personalities to suffocate his sword hero. Coupled with the forbidden power of friction, she makes him accidentally spill a fresh serving of his yogurt drink in no time at all. After the cultural session ends, she appears worried because her attributes have been compromised by his yogurt drink. But she takes pride in the fact that her apple pie is the exception. The following day, Tagawa arrives at Tomoko's house earlier than usual to ensure he has enough time to receive his medication. A CPR session begins between them, and during this time, their underlying cultural tensions become increasingly noticeable. Even Tomoko can sense that she's reached a point where she can no longer stop a full-blown cultural appreciation between them from happening. When he asks about it, she appears shy, but ultimately agrees to advance Tagawa's treatment to the next stage. In a surprising turn of events, she allows him to inspect her apple pie to check the consistency of its fillings. While doing so, Tagawa notices a significant amount of caramelized juices spilling out. It then dawns on him that she is starved for cultural appreciation, prompting him to stir the apple pie to address the obvious issue. However, his actions backfire, and it causes her to emit cultural sounds of distress. Eventually, she pleads with him to stop for a bit, but Tagawa ignores her requests and employs his expert stirring skills, resulting in a considerable quantity of caramelized juices spilling all over the place. Afterward, Tomoko finally gives in and asks him to appreciate her. Tagawa, being the gentleman he is, agrees and allows her to take charge of the cultural session. Tomoko then shows off how fast she can perform squats on Tagawa's sword hero to prove that she is still fit. Of course, she does feel worried about being culturally appreciated by Tagawa, but at that point, she can no longer hold back how she truly feels. On the other hand, Tagawa lets out cultural sounds and praises Tomoko's impressive squatting skills while doing his best to avoid spilling his yogurt too early. He has longed to appreciate her apple pie, and this moment feels like a dream come true for him. Meanwhile, Tomoko is on the verge of losing her mind while demonstrating her squats. She seems rusty and pays the price for underestimating Tagawa's cultural energy. Matters escalate further when Tagawa assumes another forbidden stance to appreciate Tomoko's apple pie. It's surprising that he still had his V-card before now, given his remarkable appreciation technique. Tomoko can't help but fill the room with her cultural sounds, and in no time, she approaches her limits. She knows she is toast if she steps on Legos, so she begs Tagawa to slow things down for her. Tagawa agrees, but it does not make that much of a difference in her situation. She then notices something off about Tagawa's motion, but is far too gone to resist. Just like that, she reaches her limits and steps on a million Legos. On the other hand, Tagawa reaches his limits too and accidentally spills a sizable amount of his fresh yogurt drink to thank her for helping out with his self-esteem. He apologizes for ignoring the proper protection protocols, but Tomoko does not seem angry about it. However, she expresses shock when she hears Masanobu's voice coming from the front door.
ただいま。嘘。え？母さん、誰か来てるの？
She never expected him to return so early, but Tagawa does not seem bothered about it even though he knows that his secret might be exposed. Masanobu innocently enters the house and walks to his mom's door to check up on her. Masanobu grows suspicious of his mother when he hears cultural sounds around her room and begins to ask if she has any visitors. Just as she's about to answer, she becomes tense at the sight of Tagawa's sword hero and asks him to conceal it. Masanobu eventually suspects that his mother might be with Tagawa, and when he inquires, she casually replies that they are discussing things together. When Masanobu opens the door, he finds Tagawa repeatedly appreciating his mother's apple pie using the forbidden Cerberus technique. Initially, Tomoko wanted to avoid having her son see her with Tagawa, but now she cares less since she has lost all her sense of reasoning. Seeing them together causes Masanobu to fall to the ground in shock. He then trembles as he reveals that Tagawa was the one who bullied him all this time. Tomoko is shocked by the revelation and tries to put an end to things. However, Tagawa disregards her reaction and reveals that he had told Masanobu to return home early, clearly intending to let him witness his appreciation session with her. Tomoko tries her best to end the appreciation session, but Tagawa resists her efforts and uses his sword to sap her of all strength. He then reminds her that Masanobu has been coming home without bruises lately, and adds that it's because of her. He has always been fascinated with her beauty, which is why he stopped picking on Masanobu. He then tells her that he will stop picking on him if she keeps allowing him to appreciate her apple pie whenever he wants. At first, Tomoko resents the offer, but she eventually agrees. After realizing that it's the only thing she can do now to protect Masanobu, Tagawa becomes happy once she accepts his offer and mentions that he will introduce her to his friends, so they can pay to appreciate her apple pie. After hearing this, Tomoko realizes that she has been foolish for allowing Tagawa into her home. She contemplates his offer and accepts the harsh truth that she's made a terrible mistake that she can no longer undo. While she lets out cultural sounds, Tagawa continues to express his appreciation for her apple pie, and she steps firmly on Legos when she reaches her limits. In a final gesture, Tagawa blesses her with a serving of his fresh yogurt drink to seal their arrangement. Tomoko savors the last of the drink and agrees to take care of him until he leaves town. A few months later, Tomoko finds herself taking a lot of medication due to the constant appreciation she receives from Tagawa and his friends. When Masanobu returns home, he notices multiple pairs of shoes in front of the house, which saddens him. He stands there for a while trying to push aside his feelings, but when he sees his mother, he feels sympathy for her. When she asks about his mood, he refuses to answer and walks away. Deep down, Tomoko feels guilty about her situation, yet she comforts herself with the thought that at the very least, she is able to protect and support him better. And guys, please in the end, don't forget to support us with a like for the video and algorithms say you will like this videos.